election. Now, aside from that, Ahmed Nasir did sit down with Tony Gashoka on Point Black, KTN, and he had quite a mouthful to say about what the president must do to win war against corruption. Now, this is being highlighted on page 8 of the Standard, and we have told well-connected and outspoken lawyer argues corruption cases in court are weak and reveals that he told Uhuru to fight graft through lifestyle audits. Now, and he's starting with owners of 120 choppers at Wilson Airport. What do you feel about this? I'll start with you, Harriet.
Well,
yes,
we must say corruption is the biggest monkey we are currently having in this forest called Kenya.
Yeah.
And to fight corruption, it's something that needs systematic strategy. What is it that we are all doing, including all institutions, to ensure that the war against graft is fought and we minimize the high rate of corruption? Because it will be a lie for me to stand here and say we can have zero-rated corruption within a very short time.
Yes.
So it has to be a systematic. We must have a systematic strategy to be able to deal with corruption. As the sitting President Uhuru Kenyatta holds the mantle to actually stop this vice. And I agree with the senior counsel Ahmed Nasir, because the state machinery alone, if they are serious in doing what they need to do or they ought to do to stop this war against corruption, they should be able to deal with it, number one. Number two, there are various institutions which play a key role, especially where public funds are concerned. And that has to cut across board. We cannot point fingers to institution Y and Z without having a connecting factor to all the others. So all these state agencies must actually unite and have a multi-sectoral discipline and approach towards the fight against graft. And the buck stops with the president himself.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, perhaps he does have a point, because oftentimes we see some of these individuals are arrested and then later on they're out in the streets and then nothing tangible is seen to have been done about the allegations. So could he be right that the cases in courts are weak? I'll throw it over to you.
Well, I've come to your show so many times on this topic of corruption, and my consistent view all through and through has been that first of all, there is no coherent, well thought out fight against corruption.
Right.
What we've been having is, number one, knee-jerk reactions to the problem of corruption without any serious thought, without any serious strategy. And if you ask any of our scholars and researchers who have researched on corruption, they will confirm that without even having to think hard about it. Number two, our so-called fight against corruption seems to have become a matter about catching headlines, arresting people on a Friday, denying them bail,
over the weekend,
and assuming that by so doing, then we're winning the war against corruption. Number three,
you're making reference to former Nairobi governor.
Yes, and then there is anyone who has a keen eye will tell you that the so-called fight against corruption has also taken a political tangent, to the extent that it appears most of those who are victims of the Friday afternoon arrests and whatnot are people perceived either to
be punished
in the Tanga movement and people aligned to the deputy president and whatnot. So in my view, this fight was started on the wrong footing, and it cannot and it will not get anywhere. The excitement about the random Friday arrests and the protracted bail hearings, until we go back to proper thinking, proper strategy, proper structures, this is not something you win by reacting emotionally and following any direction the wind takes on a particular day.
Now he did, let me read an excerpt that Senior Councillor Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi did say to during the Tony Gashoka point blank interview. He said, let him start with his cabinet and say this is your asset and this is your salary and you do not have a rich father. How did you acquire it? So the issue of lifestyle audits, what do you feel about that, Harriet?
It's important that we do a lifestyle audit, and when we are at it, it has to be apt.
Okay.
We have to take it seriously, not just doing it for the face of it. And just like my senior here has stated, the war against corruption has become almost like a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. You know, it's who shouts the loudest.
The loudest, yeah.
Which media house covers and has the most leverage in terms of coverage. And at the end of the day, what do we get?
Yes.
Nothing.
Because when you follow all these cases, we're looking for the number of people who have been prosecuted and there has been some sort of disciplinary action done, and there's none.
There's none. It's almost nil.
And literally, it's sort of you're named and shamed, then you go through some sort of court process, but then when you try and follow up to the end, it sort of disappears down the line.
In fact, when you say that, I would rather we don't have all this hula baloo about who has been captured on Friday and who's arraigned in court on Monday and who has slept in the gallows for 3 weeks.
Right.
But we have reports indicating at the end maybe of the year that we have 10 graft cases which have been concluded, and this is the verdict.
Yes.
You know, because what we are currently doing, we are prosecuting all these persons on media, whether it's on social media, whether it's on live coverage, whether it's actually the court of public opinion.
Yes.
And the information out there again is not the correct information, because it's what you say against what I think and against what person X puts across as the verdict. So you find it becomes very difficult to prosecute these cases up to the end. And for those which have actually gone through some sort of process, most of them are not even going anywhere. So that tells us something. Either some of us are sleeping on our jobs, one, or two, all these cases are just a public show.
A public show, it's sort of pageantry, as you put it. What do you feel about the lifestyle audits that have been suggested here by the Senior Council?
Just like all the other strategies, it's just, to me, it's not well thought out, just like I said. But if you want to get a clear picture of what a joke this war against corruption is, I'll tell you a case we finished just the other day as part of this. A case we actually did in court. DPP, as usual, issues a Twitter and this huge media briefing. I have authorized the prosecution of the following people for breach of these corruption and procurement laws. We go to court. It turns out the entire case is founded on a draft document. Now, you don't need any brain to know that a draft document is not official and nothing turns out on its contents. So we put this to the court. Nonetheless, the court insists, let's go through the rituals. We go through the rituals. The DPP calls 20 witnesses, 20 of them. 18 of them come and say that there was no offense committed. And as a result, the court feels very wasted. Eventually, the court rules there is even no case to answer.
It's really a waste of time.
These people are not even put on their trial. And as we speak, the DPP has appealed against that finding. When his own 18 out of 20 witnesses come and tell you. And when you follow, speaking about the case I'm talking about, you realize this case was just about succession politics at the relevant institution. And I think the real challenge for the DPP and the DCI is to realize how vulnerable the office